You're fine. Yeah, absolutely, sir.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon.
I'll start you out with a joke. Knock, knock. Who is it? Processes and tools. I told you he was agile.
All right, guys. Thanks for coming and choosing this track. I know there are other guys doing a great job as well. So some of you saw me this morning. So let's be straight again here, guys. These are not like a classical presentation and lecturing things. I'm going to throw tools and techniques, and some of them you may be familiar, some of them you won't get it. But one thing for sure, I would recommend that you explore some of it, because really, previous presentation about the strategic architecture operation, maybe not all of you have a PMO, but if you don't, that's an opportunity that you can take over and build PMO within your company. For this presentation, for the last 20-something years, Agile and Scrum are trying to make their presence in the market, and now they're taking more and more momentum. They're becoming more and more in demand. So if you're looking for a job, maybe it's not that thing to add to your resume. PMI, ACT certification. I don't get paid for this when I recommend something. So don't think that this guy is trying to do it. No. You don't even need to mention my name. Now, one thing about Agile. In the 1980-something, a couple of Japanese guys watched the Australian rugby game. And in Australian rugby, it's different than our football. Let's say if this is your team, and they want to progress, they progress by passing the ball backwards, right? So if they hit the opposite team, if the guy is too big to go through like me, he would pass the ball to another guy and he would try to go through. Which means that you would run with one task. Once you hit the roadblock, you just go and grab another task and you move forward. Are you with me? So that's kind of in a nutshell. By the way, I apologize. How many of you read about Agile? You don't need to stand up. Maybe it's not a bad idea because you had a lunch like this table. Okay. So let's put it this way. Agile is an adaptable framework you use when you need it, what you need, right? So I'm going to tell you something about Agile from my work experience, which may be in agreement or disagreement with other authors who write things around things for Agile, project management, whatever. What I want to give you as a message here is, if you want to deploy Agile within your work environment, you adopted tools that will fit your work environment. Do not try to import something to your work environment. It's not going to work. It's a cultural thing. You already have certain things that are doing just fine. Tweak them a little bit here and there, and you can apply Agile that will support your projects and in your work environment. You cannot copy-paste from others. And I've heard that there are mentors, Agile mentors, etc., who come to mentor you, etc. All of that is good, but they have to apply their set skills within your work environment. That's one of the messages you should take from here. Another thing is, since we know each other, I'm going to present probably 68 tools, or 60 tools today, in 1 hour. If you want me to talk about certain tool in details, I will. I don't want to stop there, but I want you to come with the questions. But there are 68 tools that slides that I put together out of 600 something tools and slides that I have, because I think these are the must to talk about Agile, to understand Agile. So if we are on the same page, then we are friends and we can move forward together hand in hand. Are we friends?
Sure.
We can move forward. Good, thanks. Okay, so I'm going to talk about Agile also from PMI perspective, and PMI is going to make a lot of amount of PMI ACP. Why? Because when people start talking about the Scrum, and they used to be one alliance, they split into Scrum Alliance and Agile Alliance. So at the beginning, a long time ago, I had certificates from both alliances. But then somehow, those guys tend to be very close, they don't share. So we came up with this certification, Agile Expert, who cares, in 2007. And now PMI is coming, in 2011, they came up with the PMI ACP, which I strongly believe will take over market. Why? Because they know how to turn certificates, how to make money out of them, etc. Also, I strongly recommend that you consider that for your future growth. Agile is coming for sure. So here we will talk about Agile from the PMI perspective, using the PMI ACP requirements, ACP like Agile Certified Professional. I strongly believe that over a period of time, Agile will have a framework behind it, strong framework with the processes, etc., which is against Agile. But when I wrote this book, that you don't need, my idea was like somebody has to put processes around this, and I try to plot processes as I see them important. I already mentioned that I manage projects that are cross-functional, that I have construction deliverables, I have a mechanical hardware, I have a software, electrical, all kinds of things. So I use different methodologies when I move to these projects. So when I work with the IT and research and development team, I use Agile. So today we are going to talk about tools and techniques, and based on a PMI ACP exam, this is how they group tools and techniques. I put them in a different order than they did, because I believe this is how we're supposed to learn them. Don't record me. Alright? So, again, there will be a lot of slides, a lot of tools and techniques, and I will try to speak in English so you can get a little bit out of this presentation. If you want me to repeat something, let me know. What is Agile? It's an adaptable framework or project management approach. It's adaptable, which means that we apply skills that we have at a given point in time to deliver things, and that may not be the same as our previous deliverable or iterative sprint. Right here, I want to point out Scrum. There is a Scrum Master and Scrum Certified Professional, and blah 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 blah, and there is Agile from Agile Alliance. So Scrum Alliance and Agile Alliance, right? PMI did very smart thing. They said Scrum is part of Agile. Scrum is just another framework or methodology. Are you with me? So technically, in the real world, when you go on the internet, Scrum Alliance is opposite to Agile Alliance. But PMI, again, they're money makers, they put things together. So today I'm going to tell you about Agile project lifecycle and Scrum lifecycle. There are other life cycles related to Agile, such as XP. And then you have a feature development life cycle, you have a test-driven development life cycle, etc., etc. Okay? So, again, some of the things is accountability. You're able to assign small amounts of work to the team, and they can estimate it for the given period of time. For that reason, you can account them responsible for that piece of work. It's very easy to trace it, to make a traceability matrix, to find out who owns what, who requested what. Transparency, you can apply it to all cross-functional areas. Inspection, it's really easy to inspect because inspection is done on a daily basis. As a matter of fact, I believe that Agile and Scrum with their stand-up meetings, etc., are very micromanaging tools, but they make people don't feel that way, which is a great thing. We'll talk about it in a second. Again, adoption, simplicity, etc., etc. One of the good things for the team is empowering the team involvement. They give chance to team to get involved in estimates, to pick and choose work they want to do based on constraints and limitations. Who are the people who wrote Agile Manifesto? These are also authors, and I strongly recommend that you get books from these guys if you want to go deeper into Agile. They wrote the great stuff for a traditional manager like I was. First thing that my management style was very baseless, and then I saw Pimba, and my life changed forever. And then I saw some of the Agile Scrum books, and my life changed even more. I recommend that you explore these. And most of these books are small, thin reviews, which makes easy reading, right? Okay, so what do they say? Individuals and interactions versus process and tools. And here is the first oxymoron. I go to one big company for an interview, and they are looking for Agile expert, which for some mistake they pick up my resume. So I'm on interview, but guess who is doing the interview? Six Sigma black belt guy. So if you know a little bit about Agile, and then there is a Six Sigma black belt guy, there is nothing we can talk. So you can just imagine that at the end of the meeting, I was just arguing with the guy. And at the end I told him, you're the reason why your project's late. And it was really emotional.
Did you get the job?
You got the job?
No. No, listen, I like that interview because 5 minutes in the interview I said, I didn't belong here, this is a mistake. But you see, like that's the issue. We get tied up about the process. And if you have a stage gate management approach, which most of the company follows, and you're going to kill the market just because somebody is not here to sign this piece of paper. And they don't understand that whoever comes first to the market, whoever put the TV show, that's the guy who's going to sell iPhone or whatever you sell. That's how competitive it is. People in those process-oriented jobs, they don't understand that that process can benefit or kill you like a medicine. So when I talk to the companies about Agile, this is the first thing that I ask, is anybody Six Sigma black belt? Because I'm Six Sigma too, but I don't tell that anymore because Six Sigma is supposed to be part of our life regardless. You need to learn new things to adopt, like a lean Six Sigma instead. Working software against documentation. Wow, what a statement. I don't need to write documentation, I can just write software. Well, you do need to write documentation at one point in your life, but let's release software, because that's the focus. Remember the first thing in the morning when I said, get it done, get it done. That's your objective, get it done. All of these, I don't want to call them waste activities, don't get me wrong, please. But for me, at this point, they don't add value. At this point, they're required for maintenance phase. They're not required to release to the market and to get penetration to the market. Third thing is a customer collaboration over the contract. Hey man, we need to write addendum to the contract. Well, let me call that guy who's going to call that guy who's going to call lawyer. And none of them is available. I'm telling you, every time we need to write addendum, that's extra 2 weeks delays on the project. That's statistically wrong in some of my projects. So just because the guys are not present. In other words, you need to develop contracting. And some of the contracts available right now is like a target cost contract. I'm sure cost target, etc. I'm sure you're familiar with those contracts. When you have a cost plus target price for the contract, so you can charge per deliverable, you can charge per hour, etc. As long as you're within that budget, plus that adaptability from your side and client side to understand change. What is in traditional management? I'm going to jump as many changes as I can as a customer, and you're not going to get paid more. That's not going to work anymore. Somebody asked me during lunch, have I ever rejected project? I said, I never rejected project, but I rejected customers. I like project, because that's what I do for living, but certain people just cannot deal with it. And finally, responding to change versus following plan. Plan is a live thing, we need to adjust, we need to change as needed. Okay. Now, dark side from Agile. It helps in the short term. In other words, if you don't establish a baseline, of the team performance, and we'll talk about it, which is very important. It's called signature or velocity. Signature in the Scrum management and velocity in Agile management. If you don't establish this, in other words, if your team performance can vary through a period of time, that means you're not doing Agile right. Over a period of time, you need to get solid, same standard performance from your team members. Okay? So in other words, if I'm making a cake, I should make that cake for 2 hours every time I make cake. Now at the beginning, it may take me 5 hours, and then 4 hours, and 3 hours until I learn how to make cake. But eventually, should help me make cake for 2 hours in a long period of time. Cover up for lazy people. In traditional management, when do you find out that people will not do the job? In 2 weeks or next week when there is a status report, right? Or maybe not even then because they always dream I can come on the weekend and do this. In an Agile management, you have an option that people stick for, as a team, and they cover up people who don't do the job. But guess what? Once you establish velocity, people who don't meet into that velocity, in other words, throughput, how much work you can do for a given period of time within Agile, those people will be discovered during the stand-up meetings. So technically, nobody would say, hey, Marco, how come you're not doing 5 points of hours of work per task as anybody else? People will not tell you that, but based on your report, when you talk to people in a stand-up meeting, that information will be revealed. And work environment often squeeze out people who cannot fit. Literally, you just don't fit in that work environment. You cannot meet the expectations, and you feel you don't belong there. So that's why I'm saying that Agile is kind of sneaky framework to clean up, to remove bottlenecks, to remove the lead around your team and improve your performance overall. Agile can bring chaos for the same reason. If people are faking in terms of their velocity and how much work they can do, they can create the chaos within your process, within your project. Now, you remember that there is a triple constraints for traditional management, such as cost, schedule, scope, or whatever. So that's traditional management. In Agile, you also have a value and quality, which includes reliability and adaptability. Now, when you look at an Agile scenario versus traditional project management, in traditional management, I have a scope, and then I break scope into WBS, and then I break WBS into project activity list, right? Now, in Agile, it follows almost the same process, but the only difference is that they look for some additional things, such as functions. So they take function, and then they break functions into tasks, which is or activity list. Functions, what is the functions? Any useful output from your team that you can create for your customer. So let's say if you start talking from the Agile perspective and you give me scope, that's like the whole house. But when you tell me the functions, then I want you to describe what type of services or benefits I will get from each deliverable that I'm giving to the customer. So for example, I don't want you, if you're building home, I'm going to switch to IT later. If you're building home and you say I want a jacuzzi, I want you to tell me what kind of experience you want to have with that jacuzzi. And that's Agile management. You see the difference now? And that interaction is between your team and your customer. It's not between business analysts and marketing and sales guy. It's between team and customer. So the customer would say what they really want as our, in terms of what kind of benefits they would like to experience. So if you go to IT, you can say, hey, I want people to be able to log in and create a profile on my corporate website, right? Now, that would be traditional project management. In Agile, you want to explain what kind of experience people would have while they're doing that. While describing that experience, you are able to complete picture to the team what you really want. Even to the color of the GUI that you're going to use and reports that you're going to put there, etc. Now, in that process, when you are describing your experience, you may come up with the new ideas. And why is that important? You better come with the idea now than two months later when I show you GUI as output. And that's the key. Be proactive. Get it done as soon as possible. Again, Agile is applicable to all industries, I guarantee you that, even construction. A lot of people say this is nuts, but I strongly believe with the right attitude you can do it too. Most of the companies that benefit are these R&D projects. Why? Because R&D projects don't have a scope. But Agile will allow customers to come up with the changes all the time. Team is mentally prepared for that. You're mentally prepared that what I'm building today, it's working today, but tomorrow may be obsolete. So I have to redo it again. I have to go, when you go in a life cycle, in a research and development, you go into the spiral, and you have a lot of back and forth until you find what is the output requested by the customer. Also, quick market penetration. When you need to do something quickly, like the best company ever on this planet, Microsoft, I really admire their company. They say, hey, we can do this, let's do it quickly, it's not perfect, but we penetrate the market. Now, we don't have that option, but how do we penetrate the market? With something that's called minimal marketable feature. What is the minimal marketable feature? You look at the scope of the project, and you cut it, you decompose, and you find out what is the bare minimum that I can sell to the customer. Let's say if I'm building a website, social website for you, what is the bare minimum that I can sell to you? So I know you want login, I know you want a shopping cart, I know you want people to post videos, blogs, reports, I know you want people to add commercial ads to sell it. I know that you want all of that. But if I ask you, what is the bare minimum that you want? That's the minimal marketable feature or product that you can put on the market. In other words, whatever I put on the market, it's going to work 100%, but it's not going to be complete. Are you with me? If you're building a house, for example, you're just going to build a fence, and it's going to be perfect, but that's all we have. Okay? Again, project with the frequent changes and project with don't have a complete scope. Again, who do you want to go for dinner? Who do you want to work with and have some fun? Now, a lot of people think like an Agile is a fun working environment. Not at all, guys. Every day, when you start sprint or iteration. Now, by the way, sprint is a term developed within the Scrum community, and iteration is the term developed within the Agile community. Technically, they mean the same. A time box environment, time frame within which you want to do some work. And in a sprint, you're talking about 30 days. In Agile, you're talking 2 to 4 weeks of work. Okay? Are you with me on this? Good. So, every day in Agile or Scrum, again, I'm going to use them as the same for this class, for this presentation. Agile and Scrum, you have a sprint or iterations. Every day, you have a daily stand-up meetings. Have you ever heard about those daily stand-up meetings, right? What are the 3 questions that you answer in those daily stand-up meetings? What?
What are the bottlenecks?
Who said it? All right, that's a third question. First question is,
What are you going to do?
what did you do yesterday?
What are you going to do?
I already have it.
Yeah, good.
What do you have?
How many keys do you have? Okay, so what did you do yesterday? What you're going to do today, is there any issue about it? That's all. And you don't ask him, hey, the server crashed. I didn't ask you about that. I have a pain, I gotta watch a baseball game or something. I didn't ask you about that. What did you do yesterday? What did you do today? What did you do tomorrow? And every day you say something like that, I'm gonna build your signature when I start Agile or Scrum project. I'm gonna build your signature, and guess what? I'm gonna hold you responsible that you always deliver at your best. And guess what? If I deliver more than you, and you can see that on a timeline, performance, people would ask me, how come Mike Marco is the slowest one? And then you would be the one that they would talk and ask you to speed up. And if you cannot speed up, then you don't belong there. That's why I'm saying that Agile is a very sneaky tool to beat out low performance. Okay, now here is the workflow for the Scrum. What do we start with? We have a business requirements, right? We have business requirements, and we look in those business requirements to build the functions. Again, you tell me you want a website, you tell me you want home, but I want to know what kind of functions you want to get out of your home. What type of functions you get into your website. Are you with me? So don't tell me deliverables. Tell me your experience that you want to get from that output. Once I get that, I will develop a product backlog. Now, product backlog is made of functions and user stories or features. Again, for this presentation, I would say user story is the same as a feature. What is the user story? Explanation of your experience with the project output or that function. So I have a function. A function is I want to have a login. What is the experience to have with the login? I want to have a login that is secure, that I can upload pictures quickly on one page to create my profile, maybe to create login to Facebook, etc. So that's my expectation, my experience that I want to have with that function that you're going to build for me. So once I have a product backlog, I would go through sprint planning meeting 1 and 2. Sprint planning meeting 1 is usually 4 to 8 hours in duration, and customer comes, end users or expert customer comes and they talk about project and what they want for the project, and team is writing down. In a second session, team is asking customer, making sure that they confirm what they got from the customer in the first meeting is correct. They may go to the details such as, hey, what kind of car would you like to have this button, or what is the background color, etc. So you start building the whole picture. Okay? Once you go to that, you technically, in one way, you will have a product backlog, which is a list of all the functions that you're going to deliver, and you hope that those functions will be prioritized by your customer. And once you prioritize that product backlog, you go to the sprint planning meeting 1 and 2. What I do as a team, I would pick my own sprint backlog or what type of tasks or what tasks I would do, or user stories, what I would do for the next sprint. So you see here I have 2 prioritizations. One prioritization comes from the customer, and then based on that prioritization, I pick and choose what I want to do. So there is no influence on that process. Nobody can tell me what I'm going to do for the sprint. And that's why we say that Agile or Scrum empowers team members. You can pick and choose your work. And if it's not working, you can do something else. You can always go back and pick up something else from the product backlog, the task board. We'll talk about it in a second. Again, we run a sprint. What is the duration of the sprint?
2 weeks.
Who said it?
I said 2 weeks.
2 weeks?
I'm going to keep
Say
it.
1 to 2 days.
No, it's here you go. It's 30 days. Sprint is 30 days. Iteration is 2 to 4 weeks. Okay, let me repeat. Sprint is a Scrum term. Iteration is an Agile term. For this presentation, I'm going to consider them the same. Are you with me? Okay, let me repeat again. Scrum Alliance builds Scrum. Agile Alliance builds Agile. PMI united the two. Are you with me? All right. I mean, the statement is good. I know. Let's stand up. Please stand up. Okay. So we have a daily stand-up meetings. We ask those 3 questions to see what is the team performance. During the daily stand-up meetings, we are going to build something that's called burn down and burn up chart. How many? Does anybody know what's a burn down chart? 2. Good. The rest of you don't care. I like that. So here's the burn down chart concept, and it's not rocket science, guys. At all. What's the most important thing for project manager? How much work is remaining? Nobody cares what you did if you didn't write it, right? So this I start project, and let's say at the beginning of the month, how many days in April, in the beginning of April, how many days I have? Calendar days. 30. So 30. After today, how many days are left? 29. After 2 days, how many days? 28, 27, 26, etc. So this is your burn down chart. This is ideal burn down chart. That means the team is able to reduce amount of workload, user stories, points, hours within the sprint, evenly throughout sprint, based on their signature. And that's ideal project management goal in Agile. Most of the time we have fluctuations, right? But that's life. So once you build this scenario, you're tracking down how much work is left. That's burn down approach. That's a burn down chart. So if I have 5 team members and I said, excuse me, sir, how many hours a day can you work on this project after the hours? 3 hours. Very good. So let's put it this way. If I have 5 people and they work 3 hours a day, which is 15 hours a day, and I have 30 work days or 30 calendar days or whatever they're going to work for, 30 days times 15 hours is 450 hours. That's how much work they commit to deliver within the sprint. Are you with me? Now, every sprint, every day they're supposed to deliver how many hours of work? 15, right? That's what they promised me. So it's going to be 435, and then 420, and then 405. And every day I'm going to measure their output against what they promised me. When you start applying Agile within your organization, they won't be able to build signature, a stable signature immediately. In other words, some people will try to impress you, and some people will try to mess with you or whatever. So he would say 3, and some would say, I have to work 10 hours, Mike, for you to do a great job, I'm going to work 10 hours. So you need to find out what's really the reality of your output, and usually that signature, or how much you can get from your team, is calculated or developed within 2-3 sprints or iterations. Are you with me? In other words, people adjust to that way of managing, planning, reporting. Okay? So let's say we deliver at the end of the sprint, we release to the customer. What are the situations that we can have here? Let's say we cannot complete the entire sprint. The leftovers from the sprint will go back to the product backlog, so the customer will prioritize product backlog, and then for us to choose what's for the next sprint. Are you with me? Second thing is, if you need to terminate sprint early because it's not done, or there is a huge change coming, etc., you can do that as well. It's the same process. You go back to product backlog, you reprioritize, and then you pick your sprint backlog for the next sprint. Okay. Let's say if everything is okay, you release and you close sprint, you closing sprint in the retrospective, which is something like we know in traditional management, like a lesson learned. You can have 2 or many, you can have many retrospectives, but usually there are 2. One is like a technical, when you sit with the engineers and to see what's going on, and then the second one would be with the customer, to see what's going on with the customer, etc. You can put them together as well, but sometimes you really want to separate the 2 so you can get feedback from the team and customer what they think about overall project progress. Okay. Now this is a framework for Agile. Okay. Now take a look. Agile went a step a little bit further because they put some kind of phases. Scrum doesn't have that. Agile says, well, we can have some phases, such as envision, speculate, explore, and then adapt and close. So they already start building kind of framework that will have processes within, but still rules adaptable, etc.